13 years and 5 months old. He was born in 2010. I'm 27 years old and I'm twice as old as this dude. He's the youngest professional team sports athlete in the United States ever. Davian Kimbrough is his name, and this is not some sort of gimmick. He won the MVP award at a major European U13 tournament. I realize that doesn't sound nearly as impressive as it actually is, so we'll get to that later. The club that signed him is Sacramento Republic. They play in the USL Championship, which is the second division of United States soccer, the fully professional division below MLS. And Sacramento is absolutely sure that this kid is special, even though they didn't respond to my request for an interview. How do you think we should start this interview request? What's poppin', home slice? Yeah, it probably wasn't the best idea. And it's not just according to them. All the evidence is that this kid is going to be a good professional player, even though he's not really physically a kid. He's 5'10 already. Now, he's from the area right around Sacramento Republic, and he signed for their youth setup when he was just 11 years old, which, I remind you, was 2 years ago. Now, immediately when he joined the club at 11, he started playing for the U13 at Sacramento Republic, where he promptly scored 27 goals in 31 matches, playing up 2 years. These kids were 16% older than him. Sounds more impressive than it is. These kids just haven't been alive that long. And Davian Kimbrough wasn't just a bright spot by himself. Playing up by 2 years, he led the team to 30 wins in 31 matches. Sacramento Republic is not an MLS team, but its U13 team at this time was the best in the country, and he was scoring nearly a goal per game in it. This team won 27 straight games to start the season. That kind of consistency at the U13 level, I have to imagine, is pretty hard to achieve, remembering my own U13 days when we could barely kick the ball in the right direction. Maybe that's just an American thing. Now, the next year, of course, he got promoted. At the age of 12, he was playing in the U14 team for Sacramento, a team that promptly scored 148 goals that year in the MLS Next division they were in, while allowing just 22. Of course, Sacramento's team won the MLS Next division with Davian Kimbrough in the side, while he scored 34 goals from 50 matches while playing for the U14 and the U15 team that he eventually got promoted to. That's 2 years in the youth academy at Sacramento, 61 goals scored, constantly playing well up in age. Now, his tremendous form in the MLS youth leagues earned him an invite as a guest player to the New York Red Bulls Academy, which is important because that academy team at the U13 level was going to the tournament called the Champions League of U13, the Basvelda Cup. And while it is a U13 tournament, sure, it is a measuring stick for top youth talent across the continent of Europe and apparently now North America. Kevin De Bruyne and Romelu Lukaku are just a few of the players that have played at this tournament over the years. It attracts over 1,000 people to watch the final. At U13, Juventus sent a team. Benfica, West Ham, PSV all had teams there. A 16-team field, including one MLS participant, New York Red Bulls, and one guest player, Davian Kimbrough. And if you haven't figured out the trend in this story, of course, New York Red Bulls won. And you want to know who won MVP? It's Davian Kimbrough. He scored 6 goals in the tournament. There are only 6 matches in the tournament. This brought about a potentially uncomfortable truth that this team in Sacramento, a second division team in the United States, had its hands on arguably the best U13 player in the world. So what happens in that situation? Well, of course, every MLS academy worth its salt, including New York Red Bulls, was attempting to sign Davian Kimbrough to their youth academy after this tournament, as would make complete sense. Sidebar. Unlike American superstars Christian Pulisic and Gio Reyna, who moved to Europe at a young age, Davian Kimbrough doesn't have a European passport, so he can't sign for a European academy until he's 18 years old. That meant the competition was purely local in the United States, and the winner was Sacramento Republic. And the first, obvious, most important thing is, given the fact this kid just graduated middle school, staying close to home was probably a good idea. But there was something else to pique his interest. Sacramento wasn't interested in keeping him in the academy. When he returned from the Basvelda Cup, Sacramento started to have serious conversations with Davian Kimbrough's parents about involving him in first team training sessions, which is a pretty nuclear thing to go for considering he's 13. They were concerned about the physical side. According to The Athletic, they initially started to test test him out with technical training drills, but he wouldn't get into the full training with the senior team. But of course, as everything seems to go for this kid, it went well, and in no time he was fully training with the senior team at 13 years old. And before you sneeze at the level of the USL Championship, this is a team composed of players that have played in top 5 European leagues and extensively in MLS. These are legitimate professional athletes training alongside a 13-year-old. And that, of course, raises some interesting questions. Turns out there are USL guidelines, as apparently every major league has, for integrating underage players into professional locker room settings. Guidelines that Sacramento Republic would have to go over with Davian Kimbrough's parents to make sure that he was training in a modified format and not being fully exposed to the rigors of professionalism because, you know, he's about to enter high school. And that's rigorous enough, honestly. And it took a little while to get all of those methods and ideas squared away, but once all the roadmap was put in place for a healthy training environment and developmental environment for a 13-year-old human being who happens to be unbelievably good at soccer for his age, well then, there was nothing left to do but offer him a fully professional contract. And while the fact that he signed that contract is clearly the headline-grabbing news, the other reasons that he signed are incredibly interesting, and perhaps indicative of other American Wonderkids in the future signing for second division sides. Why, you ask? Well, that's what we're about to talk about. I felt like that was obvious. It's great to be able to keep the family together. He has a lot of siblings, and his whole family is established around Sacramento Republic, but the club clearly won the argument from another angle as well. Christian Pulisic is a great example, the American prodigy who has become the best American player in my estimation of all time, at least with his impact in Europe. He moved to Germany at a very young age, not too much older than Davian Kimbrough, and his dad moved with him to help him integrate into society, or at least have a friendly face around. So even though it sounds crazy for you and I to move across the world or across the country at 14, 15 years old, that's what happens to these kids all the time. The argument that the club made was that staying at Sacramento Republic and not joining an MLS academy was actually good for his career. See, Davian and his family have been very clear about the fact that his dream is to play in Europe, which means when he turns 18, as long as he continues his track of development, then it's go time and time to move to Europe. And the club understands that. Here's head coach Mark Briggs. A young player's path is never the same as the person seated next to them. Davian has shown tremendous focus, commitment, and dedication, as well as a willingness to embrace the challenging road ahead of him. And everybody around him seems to assume that road is headed to Europe at some point, including president and general manager of Sacramento Republic, Todd Donovan. Davian's journey with Republic FC is just beginning. He's a remarkable talent who is committed to his dream of becoming an elite player. From competing with players in older age groups and thriving at top competitions to stepping onto the first team training grounds. But this next part is really important. We are honored that the Kimbrough family and Davian have chosen Republic FC to support his professional pathway. His pathway. You see, Sacramento Republic is under no illusion that Davian Kimbrough, if all things go according to plan, will be at Sacramento Republic for his entire or even most of his career. And that pathway is exactly the other reason that Davian Kimbrough has decided to go fully professional with a USL team instead of signing with an MLS academy. And this involves a lot of American soccer stuff, so put on your seatbelts. In the USL, the club owns all of their players. Now that might sound like a simple thing, but in MLS, it's not the case. The league owns everything about MLS. The owners buy shares of the league, which means the players are owned by the league. And in order to improve the quality of the product, MLS ensures that there are longer contracts on young players, which in turn, because of the greater exposure of MLS as well, means that there are much higher transfer fees involved if you're trying to move to Europe, which means a lot of American players don't move to Europe when they're talented youngsters until their early 20s. And the result is that Davian Kimbrough is just a particularly young example of a trend that's growing in the US. And that's talented young Americans staying in the USL Championship and using their relationships to clubs to bolster a quick move to Europe when they're 18. Louisville City center back Josh Winder became one of the most expensive transfers in USL history at 18 when he was purchased by Benfica, one of those big clubs that was at the Basvelda Cup earlier in this story. Kobe Henry's another example, moving to Stade de Reims in France at 18 from the USL. And it's not just the sale part either. USL clubs have connections in Europe as well. Sacramento's no exception. Kevin Nagel, who owns Sacramento Republic, also owns Huddersfield in the English Championship. And US clubs have a habit of sending their young players over to Europe to work out with teams or go through a pre-season with a European club to gain experience. The Athletic is reporting that that is the plan with Sacramento Republic and Davian Kimbrough as well, whether it's with Huddersfield or maybe even a different club, maybe even at a higher level than Huddersfield. So amazingly, for a 13-year-old signing a professional contract, this whole thing seems like a win-win-win. He gets to stay home, close to his entire family in the area that he grew up. He gets to continue to play for the club that developed him, and he has a secure pathway to Europe should he continue to develop. An argument that they've clearly made is the best pathway for him to achieve his dream. And now that this video's out, you can be on the lookout for his debut. Sacramento Republic has a few matches left this season that he is eligible to play for. It's not the easiest team to get in, though. They are top of their conference in the USL Championship right now. But there he is on the official roster, listed at 5'11" now because he's probably still growing a lot because he's 13 years old. But this story is utterly amazing to me. And I just want to say, Davian, if you happen to see this video, just know a lot of people are going to heap a ton of expectation on you, but you are so young compared to what people are expecting you to be. That is way off in the future. Just enjoy playing the sport. Don't lose that. That's happened to other people in your position. Just enjoy playing the sport, dude. And whatever happens, gonna happen. You've got a good family around you. I watched a lot of the interviews for this video, so lean on them. And I, for one, am gonna be pulling for you in your career, dude. If you want to read more or watch more about this, I've got some news reports and a wonderful athletic article in the description, as well as every source that we use for the research in this video. And if you enjoyed it, please do hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys on Twitch. If you want to keep binge watching videos, then this is a video about a Wonderkid who came from nowhere, and he is gonna be somewhere soon. Mark my words, he's gonna be somewhere soon.